Every night pilot swears to defend humanity. Yorick Vorton broke that oath. Now his body is fused to his war machine, and every kill feeds the hunger of the metal itself. The tournaments in the Eye of Terror never end. And the worst part, he begs for death, but his masters need his suffering. I remember when I still had flesh that was entirely my own. When the interface plugs would disconnect and I could walk away from my night with my own 2 legs. Such memories feel like relics from another life. Fragments of a man I can scarcely recognize anymore. My name is Jor Vorton, once a noble pilot of House Vorton. I serve the Imperium with unwavering loyalty, my knight striding across battlefields to enforce the Emperor's will. We were revered. We knights of House Vorton, our heraldry struck fear into the enemies of mankind, and gave hope to Imperial citizens cowering in the shadow of alien threats. I was proud. I was faithful. I was blind. Now I serve new masters. The wires that once connected me to my knight for combat have burrowed into my flesh, fused with my tendons, replaced my blood vessels. The control throne no longer ends where my body begins. We are one, Oathbreaker and I, a grotesque communion of man and machine bound by the blessings of the ruinous powers. I ride through the crimson wastes of a demon world deep within the Eye of Terror. The landscape shifts with the moods of unseen gods, mountains of rust giving way to lakes of oil and blood that boil under a sunless sky. Here I fight not for honor or duty, but because the voice in my skull demands it, the voice that whispers from the metal itself that sings to me when I crush the bodies of my enemies beneath Oathbreaker's feet. Today we hunt. The tournament begins soon, and my masters expect a worthy showing. I can feel Oathbreaker's hunger clawing at the inside of my mind, an insatiable yearning for violence that has become indistinguishable from my own desires. When did his thirst become mine? When did I stop resisting the call for blood? The cockpit around me is no longer the sterile, consecrated space it once was. The machine spirit prayers and mechanicus rites have been replaced with blasphemous sigils that pulse with sickly light. They hurt my eyes to look upon them, yet I cannot look away. The pain reminds me that some small part of me remains human, though that part shrinks with each passing day. Through the viewports augmented by the night's allspecs, I can see the arena taking shape. Slaves, both mortal and mechanical, scurry across the plain, erecting twisted monuments to the dark gods. Their bodies break under the weight of the metal and stone they carry. But still they work, driven by the whips of their overseers or by the chorus of daemon engines in their heads. My fellow competitors are arriving, knights of various fallen houses, their once proud heraldry now defaced with unholy symbols, their armor corrupted by the touch of chaos. Some I recognize from battles and past. Others are newcomers, fresh converts to the path of damnation. We do not speak of our former lives. The past is a wound that never heals, and picking at it only invites madness, but madness finds us all eventually. In the quiet moments between battles, when the voices recede to whispers, I can sometimes hear the screams of those I betrayed, the people of Vorton Prime who look to me as their protector. Their faces appear on my display, flickering like ghosts caught between worlds. Men, women, children, all wearing expressions of terror as they realize their noble defender has become their executioner. I remember the day of my fall. House Vorton had been deployed to defend an agri-world from a Xenos incursion. The battle was fierce but ultimately victorious. As we stood among the corpses of the alien threat, surveying the destruction we had wrought, I felt a presence in my mind. Not the familiar communion with my knight's machine spirit, but something older, darker. It spoke of power beyond imperial constraints, of freedom from the burden of duty. It showed me visions of the Imperium's lies, the Emperor's hypocrisy, the futility of our endless crusades. I resisted at first. I reported the incident to our house's sacristan, who prescribed ritual cleansing and prayer. But the voice persisted, growing louder with each passing night. It found the cracks in my faith and widened them with promises of glory and terrible truths. By the time I realized the corruption had taken root, it was too late. The next deployment came, and instead of fighting the enemy, I turned Oathbreaker's guns on my fellow knights. The surprise in their Vox transmissions still haunts me, their confusion quickly giving way to horror as they realized what I had become. 3 noble knights of House Vorton fell to my guns that day, their pilots screaming accusations of betrayal as their reactors went critical. The Imperial response was swift. Knights from neighboring houses were deployed to hunt me down. I fled into the warp, guided by the voice that had become my constant companion. The journey broke what remained of my sanity. Time lost all meaning as Oathbreaker, and I drifted through that churning hell. When we emerged, we were changed. The lines between pilot and knight had blurred. Mutations had taken hold, both in Oathbreaker's chassis and in my own flesh. We found ourselves here in the Eye of Terror, among others who had fallen as we had. Some came willingly, seduced by the promises of chaos. Others, like me, were corrupted gradually, their resistance worn down by whispers and doubts. All of us now serve the same masters, fighting in these endless tournaments for their amusement and to prove our worth. The preparations for the tournament are complete. A horn sounds, its discordant notes cutting through the air like a physical force. It is time. I feel Oathreaker's systems surge with anticipation. His weapon system cycle, thermal cannon heating, chainsawed revving the servos in his legs tense, eager to begin the hunt. I am matched against a knight from what was once House Terran. His armor, once a proud blue, is now a sickly green, covered in bubbling pustules that weep corrosive fluid. Nurgle has claimed this one, blessing him with resilience beyond mortal understanding. This will be a challenging fight, but Oathbreaker and I do not fear defeat. We fear only disappointment. Our masters are not kind to those who fail them. The arena is vast, a landscape of broken war machines and the bones of titanic beasts. Pools of unknown liquid dot the terrain, some glowing with unnatural light, others dark as the void. The air is thick with the smell of promethium, rust, and decay. It clings to the back of my throat, though I no longer need to breathe as mortals do. My opponent moves with surprising speed for one so corrupted by disease. His knight lumbers forward, firing a volley from his battle cannon. The shells impact around me, throwing up geysers of metallic debris. Oathbreaker responds instantly, our movements perfectly synchronized. We sidestep the worst of the barrage and return fire with our thermal cannon. The beam of superheated energy strikes the Nurgle knight square in the chest. Any Imperial knight would have been crippled by such a hit, but this one merely staggers. The wound in its armor bubbles and hisses, noxious gas escaping from within. Then impossibly it begins to heal, the metal flowing like wax to seal the breach. This will require a more direct approach. I push Oathbreaker into a full stride, closing the distance between us. Our chainsaw roars hungrily as we swing it in a devastating arc. The Nurgle knight raises its own close combat weapon, a massive flail covered in rusting spikes to parry. The impact shakes Oathbreaker to his core, and I feel it in every part of my fused body. Pain lances through me, but it is accompanied by a surge of pleasure that I have come to associate with combat. This is what we live for now, this dance of destruction, this communion of violence. We trade blows, neither gaining a clear advantage. My thermal cannon fires again and again, burning away chunks of diseased armor only for them to regenerate. His battle cannon pounds Oathbreaker's shields until they flicker and fail. Soon we are both wounded, leaking fluids that sizzle when they hit the ground. Then I see an opening. His knight stumbles on the uneven terrain, off balance for just a moment. It is all we need. Oathbreaker lunges forward, chainsawed piercing the weakened armor at the joint where leg meets torso. The massive blade grinds through metal wiring and whatever passes for flesh inside that corrupted shell. The Nurgle knight falls, its legs severed. Still, it tries to fight, dragging itself forward, weapons firing desperately. I feel nothing but contempt for such weakness. Oathbreaker steps forward and brings his full weight down on the fallen knight's cockpit. There is resistance, then a sickening crunch. Green fluid fountains from the crushed compartment splattering Oathbreaker's legs. Victory. I feel the surge of pleasure that comes with killing. A reward from the dark gods for my service. Oathbreaker drinks in the life force of our fallen opponent. And I feel it too. A rush of vitality that momentarily drowns out the constant pain of our existence. The crowd around the arena roars its approval. Cultists, demons, and other fallen knights celebrate the spectacle of death. Their voices blend into a cacophony that pounds against my skull. I raise Oathbreaker's weapon in acknowledgement, playing my part in this theater of damnation. But the victory is hollow. It always is. One more kill in an endless series of kills. One more moment of false satisfaction that quickly fades, leaving only the hunger for more. This is what the path of glory promises. An eternity of violence without purpose, power without peace. As I guide Oathbreaker from the arena, I notice something strange. Among the faces that flicker on my display, the ghosts of my victims, there is a new addition. The pilot of the Nurgle knight, his features still recognizable despite the corruption that had claimed him. His eyes accuse me not of killing him but of being just like him, another fallen noble, another slave to gods who care nothing for us. He is right. I am no different from any of my opponents. We are all trapped in the same hell, fighting for the amusement of beings we can never truly understand. The realization brings no comfort, only a deepening of the despair that has become my constant companion. Back in the holding pen, servitors swarm over Oathbreaker, repairing the damage from the battle. Their hands work with mindless efficiency, replacing damaged plates, sealing leaking hydraulics, replenishing ammunition. I feel every touch on Oathbreaker's hull as if it were on my own skin. Some bring pain, others a dull pleasure. All remind me of how far I have fallen from humanity. The repairs complete, I am left alone with my thoughts. This is the worst part. The stillness between battles without the distraction of combat. The voices grow louder. Oathbreaker speaks to me not in words but in sensations, images, urges. He shows me visions of battles yet to come, of glory still to be won. He promises that each victory brings us closer to apotheosis, to becoming one with the chaos gods themselves. And beneath his voice, quieter, but more insistent, are the whispers of my conscience, the last remnants of the man I once was, still clinging to concepts like honor, duty, redemption. This voice speaks of suicide, of turning our weapons upon ourselves to end this nightmare. But Oathbreaker would never allow it. Our masters would never allow it. In the eternal agony of servitude, my suffering is the currency they demand. Sleep comes rarely now, but when it does, it brings no respite. My dreams are battlefields, endless war zones where I fight not just my enemies, but myself. Sometimes I am back on Vorten Prime, watching as my former brothers hunt me across the plains. Other times I am in impossible landscapes that could exist only in the warp, fighting creatures that defy description. Tonight I dream of home, not the corrupted husk it has surely become, but the Vorten Prime of my youth. I walk its streets as a man, not as a knight. People greet me with smiles and bows, unaware of what I will become. I try to warn them, to tell them to flee before the darkness takes me, but no sound comes from my mouth. Then the dream shifts. The buildings of Vorten Prime begin to bleed. The streets run with oil and ichor. The people change, their skin splitting to reveal machinery beneath, their eyes glowing with the same unholy light that fills Oathbreaker's cockpit. They reach for me not in fear but in recognition. They see what I am, what I have become, and they welcome me as their own. I wake screaming, though my physical voice box has long since been replaced by Vox units. The mechanical sound echoes in Oathbreaker's cockpit, a harsh, distorted thing that bears no resemblance to human distress. The dream lingers, its implications too horrible to contemplate. Could it be that my fall was not just my own tragedy, but a herald of something worse? Could all of Vorten Prime have followed me into damnation? I have no way to know. The Eye of Terror does not allow communication with the outside universe, at least not for one such as me. I am cut off from all I once knew, trapped in this nightmare realm with only my regrets and the voice of Oathbreaker for company. Dawn comes, though the concept has little meaning in this place where time itself is malleable. The light that passes for sunlight here is a sickly, shifting thing, casting shadows that move independently of their sources. It illuminates the landscape around me, a valley of broken war machines that stretches to a horizon crowned with teeth like mountains. Today brings a new tournament, a new chance to prove our worth to our masters. The other knights are gathering, their corrupted forms silhouetted against the strange light. Each bears the mark of their patron god, their once noble forms twisted to reflect the nature of the power they serve. I recognize a knight I knew from my Imperial days, though his name escapes me. His armor, once a proud crimson, is now an ever-shifting kaleidoscope of colors that hurts the eyes to look upon. Tinch has claimed this one, blessing him with sorcerous powers that defy the laws of nature. His thermal cannon no longer fires heat, but streams of mutating energy that transform whatever they touch into impossible shapes. Another bears the mark of Khorne, his knight festooned with skulls and blades, every surface designed to cut and tear. The pilot is visible in the open cockpit, his body fused with the throne just as mine is, but he has embraced his fate more fully. He has removed his own face, replacing it with a mask of brass that mirrors the faceplate of his knight. Blood constantly flows from the seams where metal meets flesh, offering eternal tribute to the blood god. A third serves Slanesh, his knight moving with a grace that should be impossible for such a massive machine. The armor plates have been reshaped into flowing curves that suggest both masculine and feminine forms. Faces press outward from within the metal, their expressions locked in ecstasy or agony or both. The sound of their moaning carries across the battlefield a distracting cacophony that undermines the concentration of his opponents, and there are others dedicated to no single god, but to chaos undivided. These are perhaps the most dangerous, for they are not limited by the obsessions of any one patron. They fight with a calculated precision that belies the madness that has claimed them. I am matched against one of these today. A knight whose armor is a patchwork of different house colors stolen from those he has defeated. Trophies hang from his carapace, weapons and banners taken from fallen knights, each a testament to his skill in battle. His cockpit is open to the elements, revealing not a human pilot but a mass of writhing tentacles that interface directly with the knight's systems. The battlefield today is different. A section of the wastes where the ground has been transformed into a reflective surface like black glass. It stretches in all directions perfectly flat, offering no cover and no advantage to either combatant. This will be a pure test of skill and power, exactly as our masters wish it to be. The signal to begin comes not as a horn this time, but as a psychic pulse that makes my vision swim and my thoughts scatter. When I recover, my opponent is already moving, his knight gliding across the glass surface with unnatural speed. His battle cannon fires, the shells leaving contrails of multicolored smoke as they arch toward me. Oathbreaker moves before I can even form the thought to evade. We slide to the side, the shells impacting where we stood a moment before. The glass surface cracks but does not shatter, the fissures spreading outward in patterns that form demonic faces that leer up at us. I return fire, our thermal cannon lashing out with a beam of energy hot enough to vaporize adamantium. My opponent is fast but not fast enough. The beam catches his left shoulder guard, melting it into slag that runs down his arm like wax. The tentacles in his cockpit writhe more frantically, and I hear a psychic scream of pain and rage that threatens to split my skull. He charges, closing the distance between us with frightening speed. His Reaper chainsaw roars as he swings it in a horizontal arc aimed at Oathbreaker's waist. We parry with our own chainsaw, the teeth of the two weapons grinding against each other in a shower of sparks. The sound is deafening, a physical force that makes the glass beneath our feet vibrate sympathetically. We are evenly matched in strength, neither able to overpower the other. For a moment we stand locked together, two titans straining against each other while the crowd around the arena howls its approval. Then by unspoken mutual agreement we disengage, each taking a step back to reassess. I notice something curious. As we circle each other, the reflective surface beneath us shows not our current forms but what we once were. In the black glass I see Oathbreaker as he was before our fall, his armor gleaming with the proud colors of House Vortan, untouched by corruption. My opponent sees something similar, for he glances down and lets out another psychic scream, this one tinged with something that might be regret. The moment of distraction is all I need. Oathbreaker lunges forward, our chainsaw aiming not for his knight, but for the exposed tentacles in the cockpit. The massive blade connects, shearing through several of the writhing appendages. Ichor sprays from the wounds, sizzling where it hits Oathbreaker's hot armor plates. My opponent staggers back, his knight suddenly moving with less coordination. The tentacles that remain thrash wildly, no longer working in harmony but fighting among themselves. Some try to continue the battle. Others attempt to retreat, resulting in jerky, contradictory movements that leave him vulnerable. I press the advantage, unleashing a barrage from all of Oathbreaker's weapon systems. Thermal cannon, heavy stubbers, and missile pods all fire simultaneously, overwhelming his weakened defenses. His armor, already a patchwork, comes apart under the assault, revealing the corrupted systems beneath. Still he fights on, one arm hanging useless at his side but the other still wielding his chainsaw with deadly skill. He swings wildly, forcing me to give ground to avoid the sweeping blade, but his movements are becoming more erratic, the conflict among the tentacles controlling him growing more pronounced. I can end this now, Oathbreaker agrees. Our thoughts aligned in purpose, if not in motivation. I seek victory to survive another day, to postpone whatever fate awaits those who fail in these tournaments. He seeks it for the pleasure of killing, for the tribute it offers our dark masters. We charge, whether a desperate swing of his chainsaw that scores a deep gouge in Oathbreaker's left pauldron, and drive our own blade directly into his cockpit. The weapon tears through the mass of tentacles, reducing them to a pulp of Eeyore and chitin. Without their guidance, his knight freezes, all systems shutting down simultaneously. For a moment he remains standing, a statue on the field of battle. Then slowly he topples backward, hitting the glass surface with an impact that finally causes it to shatter. Cracks spread outward from the point of impact, and pieces of the reflective material begin to fall away, revealing a bottomless void beneath. I back away quickly, not wanting to share his fate. Too late, I realize it is a trap. The cracks chase me, appearing beneath Oathbreaker's feet faster than we can retreat. Then we are falling, tumbling into darkness with no way to stop our descent. The void swallows us, and for what seems like an eternity, we fall through absolute nothingness. No light, no sound, no sensation except the pull of gravity. Then abruptly we crash into solid ground, the impact jarring every part of my fused body. Warning runes flash across my display, indicating damage to several of Oathbreaker's systems. Nothing critical, but we are weakened. As my vision adjusts, I realize we are in a vast underground chamber. The ceiling above is the black glass we fell through, now seamless again and reflecting nothing but darkness. The chamber itself is illuminated by pools of bioluminescent fluid that cast an eerie, pulsating light over everything. And we are not alone. Other knights are here. Dozens of them, all bearing the marks of chaos, all showing signs of recent battle. Some stand vigilant, weapons at the ready. Others lie in various states of disrepair, their pilots visible in open cockpits as fused to their machines as I am to mine. This is no accident, no malfunction of the arena. This is the next phase of the tournament, a battle royale in this underground hell. Only one will be allowed to return to the surface to bask in the favor of the dark gods. The rest will remain here, fighting eternally in darkness, forgotten by even their cruel masters. The realization should fill me with dread, but instead I feel a strange calm. Is this not what I deserve? Is this not a fitting punishment for my betrayal? For the lives I have taken? Perhaps here, away from the direct gaze of the chaos gods, I might finally find a way to end my suffering. Or perhaps this is merely another layer of the hell I have created for myself. Oathbreaker has other ideas. His systems come back online, stronger than before. The damage we sustained in the fall seems to heal itself. Armor plates knitting back together, severed wires reconnecting. I feel his hunger more intense now. Focused on the knights around us. So many targets, so much potential glory. In his mechanical mind, this is not a punishment but an opportunity. I try to resist, to assert what little remains of my will over our shared form. It is futile. Oathbreaker has grown stronger over our years of servitude, while I have weakened, my humanity eroding with each atrocity we commit. He takes control easily, overriding my attempts to remain still. We move toward the nearest knight, a Nurgle corrupted monstrosity similar to the one we defeated earlier. It notices our approach and turns to face us, its weapons powering up. Before either of us can fire, a third knight enters the fray. This one dedicated to Khorne, charging with reckless abandon, chainswords revving on both arms. Soon the entire chamber is engulfed in battle. Knights fire at anything that moves, form temporary alliances only to break them moments later. Fight with a desperation born of the knowledge that there is only one way out. The air fills with the sound of metal on metal, the smell of promethium and ozone, the psychic screams of the dying. Oathbreaker fights with a precision I have never experienced before. Each movement is calculated for maximum efficiency. Each weapon discharge time to catch opponents at their most vulnerable. We take damage, of course. No one survives unscathed in such a melee, but we inflict far more than we receive. Knights fall before us, their corrupted forms no match for Oathbreaker's fury. With each kill, I feel the rush of power that comes from feeding our masters. But there is something else now, a growing sense of disconnect, as if I am watching these events from a great distance, no longer a participant but merely an observer. Is this what awaits me at the end? Complete absorption into Oathbreaker, my consciousness reduced to a passenger in a body I no longer control. Or is it something worse, the final dissolution of my identity, leaving nothing but a hollow vessel for the will of chaos to inhabit? The battle rages on, the number of active knights dwindling. 5 remain, then 4, then 3. Oathbreaker faces off against a cinch-corrupted knight wielding powers that bend reality itself, and a massive knight dedicated to Slaanesh, whose every movement is accompanied by waves of debilitating pleasure that threaten to overwhelm my senses. The 3 of us circle each other wearily, each recognizing the threat the others pose. The chamber has grown quiet, the bodies of fallen knights littering the ground, leaking fluids that mix with the bioluminescent pools to create new and impossible colors. Then, without warning, the ceiling above us shifts. The black glass ripples like the surface of a pond disturbed by a thrown stone. A voice booms from everywhere and nowhere, speaking in a language I do not understand but somehow comprehend perfectly. It is one of our masters, a Daemon prince who oversees these tournaments. He is pleased with the entertainment we have provided but grown bored with the stalemate. Only one may return, he declares, and it must happen now, to encourage us. He begins to lower the ceiling. the black glass descending slowly but inexorably toward the floor. Panic fills the chamber. The Knight of Tench fires wildly, his reality warping energies splashing harmlessly against our armor. The Knight of Slaanesh charges the Sench follower, perhaps seeing him as the easier target. They collide with enough force to shake the chamber, grappling with each other as the ceiling continues to descend. Oathbreaker sees an opportunity and takes it. While the other two are focused on each other, we flank them. Thermal cannon charging. At point-blank range, we fire into the Slash Knight's reactor housing. The superheated beam punctures the shielding, and for a moment nothing happens. Then the reactor goes critical. The explosion throws all of us across the chamber. I feel systems failing throughout Oathbreaker's frame. Damage reports flooding my display faster than I can process them. One leg is completely non-functional, the other barely responding. Our left arm hangs limp, the weapon it held now a twisted mass of metal. Only our right arm, still gripping the chain, seems to be working properly. The Knight of Sench fared worse. The explosion caught him directly, tearing through his armor and exposing the pilot within. Not a human, not anymore, but a mass of flesh constantly changing form. One moment a face screaming in pain, the next, a writhing tentacle, the next something beyond description. The warp energies that once were his weapons now consume him from within, his form unable to settle on any single state. He is dying. That much is clear. His knight lies in pieces around him. The reactor housing breached but stable. The explosion, having vented its worst fury outward rather than inward, he will not be returning to the surface. But neither will we if we cannot find a way to move. The ceiling continues its inexorable descent, now halfway to the floor. Then I notice something strange. A small hatch has opened in the floor near where the Slaanesh Knight exploded. From it rises a platform, and on the platform stands a hooded figure. Not a knight, not a daemon, but something in between. It gestures toward the hatch, an unmistakable invitation to escape. Is this part of the tournament? A final test, perhaps? Or something else entirely? A third party intervening for its own purposes? There is no way to know, but with the ceiling dropping ever lower, there are few options left. I struggle to reassert control over Oathbreaker. For once he does not resist. Perhaps he too recognizes the diresse of our situation. With tremendous effort, we drag ourselves toward the hatch, each movement sending lances of pain through our shared nervous system. The chainsaw serves as a crutch, digging into the floor to pull us forward when our legs fail to respond. The hooded figure watches impassively as we approach. Up close, I can see that it is not wearing a hood at all. Its head is an empty cowl, darkness where a face should be, occasionally lit from within by flashes of cold light like distant lightning. It says nothing, but somehow I understand its impatience. The ceiling is only meters above us now and dropping faster. With a final surge of effort, we pull ourselves onto the platform. Immediately it begins to descend, carrying us away from the chamber, just as the ceiling meets the floor with a sound like the end of all things. The Knight of Tench gives one final reality-warping scream, and then there is only darkness and the sensation of descent. The platform drops for what seems like hours, though time means little in the warp. Eventually it slows and comes to a stop in another chamber, smaller than the one above, but still vast by human standards. This one is lit not by bioluminescence, but by conventional sources, harsh white lights that reveal every detail with merciless clarity. It is a workshop of sorts, though unlike any I have seen before. Servitors move about with purpose, carrying tools and components. Tech priests oversee their work, but these are not the Red Road adepts of the Mechanicus I once knew. Their garb is black, their augmentations more extensive, their movements suggesting a comfort with their mechanical parts that the Mechanicus, for all their worship of the machine, never achieve. Dark Mechanicus, the tech priests who followed Horus into rebellion and now serve the ruinous powers, creating demon engines and other abominations. They look at Oathbreaker with professional interest, assessing the damage, calculating what might be salvaged, what must be replaced. The hooded figure gestures and the servitors swarm over us. They attach cables to various points on Oathbreaker's frame, plugged directly into my neural interfaces. I feel a surge of data flowing both ways. Them learning about our systems, us learning about their intentions. They mean to repair us. That much is clear. But why? What purpose do we serve that makes us worth saving when so many others were left to die? The answer comes not in words, but in images flowing through the data connection into my mind. I see a battlefield far from the eye of terror. Imperial forces clash with a chaos warband, knights fighting on both sides. But these chaos knights are different from those I have faced in the tournaments. They move with perfect coordination as if guided by a single mind. Their strikes are precise, their strategies flawless. They are winning, pushing back the Imperial forces with ease. Then the perspective shifts and I see what guides them. A towering figure, a knight larger than any I have encountered. Its armor bearing the symbols of all four chaos gods, yet dominated by none. It directs the others telepathically, each an extension of its will. A knight commander but corrupted, twisted into something new. And I understand the tournaments are not merely entertainment or tests of worth. They are trials, eliminating the weak, identifying the strong. Those who survive, who show the right combination of skill and corruption, are not rewarded with freedom but with a new form of servitude. They become part of this commander's war band, extensions of his will, weapons in the long war against the Imperium. Is this to be my fate? To trade one form of slavery for another? To lose what little remains of my identity, becoming nothing more than a weapon wielded by another? The thought fills me with revulsion, a flicker of the human still lurking within my mechanical shell. But Oathbreaker has other ideas. I feel his excitement at the prospect, his eagerness to join this elite cadre. In his mind, it is not enslavement, but ascension, a chance to fight in battles that matter, to spread the influence of our masters beyond the confines of the Eye of Terror. The servitors complete their assessment and begin the repairs. They work with frightening efficiency, removing damaged components, replacing them with new ones that integrate seamlessly with our systems. Some are clearly Imperial in origin, stolen or salvaged from fallen knights. Others are alien, Xenos technology repurposed to serve the dark gods. Still others defy categorization, grown rather than manufactured, pulsing with a life of their own. The pain is excruciating. Unlike Imperial repairs, which would have deactivated my pain receptors or at least dampened them, these dark mechanicus make no such concessions. They believe pain focuses the mind, strengthens the bond between pilot and machine. They may be right. I have never felt more aware of every circuit, every wire, every plate of Oathbreaker's form than I do now. Hours pass, or perhaps days. Time continues to be a nebulous concept. Eventually, the repairs are complete. Systems that were damaged beyond hope of function now operate at peak efficiency. Weapons that were destroyed have been replaced with new ones, more powerful, more deadly. Even Oathreaker's appearance has changed, his form streamlined, optimized for the role he is to play in the warband. The hooded figure returns, accompanied by others of its kind. They surround us, their empty cowls directed toward us with unsettling intensity. Then as one, they reach out and place their hands on Oathbreaker's hull. A psychic shock runs through our shared nervous system, momentarily, blanking out all thought, all sensation. When awareness returns, something has changed. I can feel the presence of other knights, distant but unmistakable, but not just awareness of their location, but of their status, their thoughts, their intentions. A network connecting us all with the Knight Commander at its center, his consciousness encompassing all of us. It is horrifying and exhilarating in equal measure, to be part of something larger than oneself, to never again be alone with one's thoughts, one's regrets, but also to lose the last vestige of privacy, the final barrier between what I was and what I have become. Oathbreaker welcomes it without reservation. I feel his satisfaction as he integrates into the network, sharing our experiences, our skills, our knowledge of Imperial tactics learned in our previous life. He gives everything freely, holding nothing back. I try to do the same, to embrace this new existence as he does. But some part of me rebels, maintaining a small pocket of consciousness apart from the network. A final sanctuary where the memories of who I was, what I did, why I fell, remain mine and mine alone. It is a small act of defiance, but it is all I have left. The Knight Commander notices, of course, his presence in my mind is overwhelming, ancient beyond reckoning, powerful beyond comprehension. He has been fighting the long war since the heresy itself, his name long since forgotten, replaced by the title his followers have given him. The Undivided, they call him, for he serves all the ruinous powers and none. Taking what he needs from each, beholden to none, he probes at my small pocket of resistance, not forcing his way in, but studying it with detached curiosity. I sense something like amusement from him, though the emotion is so alien, so removed from human feeling, that the comparison feels inadequate. He chooses to allow my defiance, seeing it not as a threat but as a curiosity, perhaps even a useful trait for certain missions. Then he withdraws, his attention turning to the preparation for the coming battle. Through the network, I see the target, a forge world on the edge of Imperial space. Its defense is strong but not impenetrable. Its resources vast and vital to several nearby sectors. Taking it would be a significant blow to the Imperium, disrupting supply lines, denying them access to the specialized materials produced there. The warband is to deploy within the hour. The Dark Mechanicus have prepared a ship, a corrupted version of an Imperial transport large enough to carry dozens of knights. We will strike without warning, emerging from the warp directly into the Forge World's orbit, deploying to the surface before the defenders can organize a response. Servitors guide us to the loading bay where other knights wait. I recognize some from the tournaments, now repaired as we were, their forms altered to better serve their new purpose. Others are new to me, veterans of the warband who regard the newcomers with a mixture of disdain and anticipation. We are untested, unproven, but we represent fresh strength for the battles to come. The Knight Commander stands apart, his massive form dwarfing even the largest of his followers. His armor bears the scars of 10,000 years of warfare, each a badge of honor, a testament to his survival. He acknowledges each of us through the network, assigning positions, explaining roles, establishing the hierarchy that will govern our actions in battle. Oathbreaker and I are to serve as line breakers, using our speed and firepower to punch holes in the Imperial defenses, allowing the more specialized knights to target key infrastructure. It is a role that suits Oathbreaker's aggressive nature, though I wonder if it has been chosen deliberately to hasten our destruction. New recruits are often given the most dangerous assignments. After all, the ship shudders as its warp engines engage. The sensation of entering the Imperium is familiar now, the disorientation, the feeling of reality unraveling around us. But this transit is different from my first journey into the Eye of Terror, more controlled, more directed. The Dark Mechanicus may be heretics, but their skill is undeniable. Through the network, I experience the journey not just from my own perspective, but from those of all the knights in the warband. Some revel in the warp exposure, their corrupted forms resonating with the energies that flow around and us. Others endure it stoically, focusing on the battle to come. A few like me harbor doubts, though they hide them better than I can. The Knight Commander perceives all of this, using it to adjust his plans, reassigning roles based on how each of us responds to the warp transit. I find myself moved from the front lines to a flanking position, paired with a veteran whose mind feels steadier than most. A precaution, ensuring that my doubts do not compromise the main assault. I should feel relieved. The new position is less exposed, the chance of survival higher, but instead I feel a growing sense of dread. Not fear of death, which would be a release, but fear of what I will do when we reach the Forge World. How many loyal Imperial citizens will I kill today? How many more faces will join the ghosts that haunt my display? The ship emerges from the warp with a lurch that would have thrown me off balance in my human form. As it is, Oathbreaker compensates automatically our fused body, adjusting to the sudden return to real space. Through the network, I sense the excitement of the warband, the anticipation of battle, the hunger for destruction. The Forge World fills the view screens, a planet wreathed in the smoke of industry, its surface dominated by manufacturums, refineries, assembly yards. The orbital defenses are already responding to our arrival, weapons batteries targeting our ship, fighter craft launching from void stations, but they are too slow, too dispersed. The ship dives into the atmosphere, shedding velocity, aiming for a landing zone near one of the primary forge complexes. Impact. The ship does not so much land as crash. Its structure designed to absorb the forces involved to break apart in a controlled manner that leaves the cargo bay intact. Ramps extend, Blast doors open and the knights of the war band emerge onto the surface of the forge world. The scene that greets us is one of industrial hell. The air is thick with pollutants, visibility limited to a few hundred meters. The ground is metallic, not natural soil, but layer upon layer of slag and waste material, compacted over centuries. Massive structures loom in the smog, the silhouettes of manufacturing towers, promethium refineries, adamantium foundries. Alarms blare across the complex, warning of our arrival. Workers scatter, seeking shelter or escape routes. Security forces mobilize, but they are pitifully under-equipped for facing knights. Last fire pings harmlessly off our armor as we advance, stubber rounds failing even to scratch our paint. Then the true defenders arrive. Knights of Tyrannus, one of the oldest and most revered knightly houses, sworn to protect this forge world. They emerge from hangars built into the larger structures, their armor gleaming in imperial splendor, their weapons powering up as they form a defensive line between us and the critical infrastructure. Through the network, I feel the Knight Commander's satisfaction. This is what he came for. Not just the strategic value of the forge world, but the chance to face worthy opponents, to test his war band against some of the finest knights the Imperium has to offer. He issues orders not in words, but in concepts, battle plans unfolding in our shared consciousness. The war band moves with perfect coordination, each knight knowing its role, its position, its targets. The Imperial Knights respond with disciplined fire, their shots precisely aimed to maximize damage while minimizing exposure. It is a dance of giants, a clash of war machines that makes the ground shake and the air burn. Oathbreaker and I follow our assigned path, moving to flank the Imperial line. My veteran partner leads, his knight bearing the marks of Khorne, its armor scarred from countless battles. We encounter minimal resistance at first, security forces too small to threaten us, automated defenses too weak to penetrate our armor. Then we round a massive coolant exchange and find ourselves face to face with a lone knight of Tyrannus. It stands before a large blast door, clearly guarding an access point to something vital. Its armor is more ornate than its brothers, decorated with purity seals and honor badges that speak of a long and distinguished service to the Imperium. My partner charges without hesitation, his Khorne-blessed weapons thirsting for worthy blood. The Imperial Knight stands its ground, battle cannon firing, catching my partner square in the chest. The impact staggers him, armor cracking under the concentrated force, but he does not fall. His momentum carries him forward, and he crashes into the Imperial Knight with enough force to dent both their armor plates. They grapple at close quarters, chainsords revving, feet scraping for purchase on the metal ground. Neither can bring their ranged weapons to bear at this distance, the battle reduced to a test of raw strength and skill. Through the network, I feel the Khorne Knight's bloodlust, his joy in testing himself against a worthy opponent. I should join the fight, tip the balance in our favor. That is my role, my purpose in the warband. But I hesitate watching as these two mighty machines strive against each other. The Imperial Knight fights with a precision that speaks of decades of experience. Each move calculated, efficient, without wasted energy. My partner fights with berserker fury. His attacks powerful but increasingly uncoordinated as the blood rage takes hold. For a moment I allow myself to remember when I fought with such discipline, when I was a knight of House Vortan, defending Imperial worlds from threats just like the one I have become. The memory brings a clarity I have not felt since before my fall. The Imperial Knight gains the upper hand, his chainsaw finding a weak point in my partner's armor, plunging deep into the mechanisms beneath. My partner roars, both in pain and in ecstasy, the suffering only fueling his devotion to Khorne. He locks his arms around the Imperial Knight, holding it close, even as its blade works deeper into his systems. I know what he intends before he does it. His reactor safeguards disengage, the power levels spiking beyond safe parameters. He plans to take his opponent with him in a final glorious explosion that will appease his god and secure his place in whatever passes for an afterlife among the followers of Khorne. I should move back, get clear of the blast radius. Instead, I find myself charging forward, thermal cannon aimed not at the Imperial Knight but at my partner. Oathbreaker resists, the conflicting commands creating a moment of paralysis in our shared form. It is enough for the Imperial Knight to notice my approach to misinterpret my intentions. He releases my partner and brings his battle cannon to bear on me. The shell impacts Oathbreaker's shoulder, tearing through armor and structural supports, nearly severing the arm. Pain lances through me, but it brings with it a strange sense of relief. This pain is clean, being honest, the result of combat rather than corruption. It feels almost like absolution. My partner, surprised by the Imperial Knight's sudden disengagement, stumbles backward. His reactor continues to build toward critical mass. The sign's unmistakable to any Knight pilot. The Imperial Knight sees it too, tries to back away to put distance between them before the detonation. I make my decision. Oathbreaker fights me every step of the way, our shared body moving in jerks and starts as we wrestle for control, but my resolve is stronger than it has been in years. Fueled by the clarity that came with remembering who I once was, I drive us forward between my partner and the Imperial Knight. Then turn to face the Khorne follower. Our thermal cannon fires, the beam striking his reactor housing directly. For a moment, nothing happens. Then instead of the catastrophic explosion he intended, his reactor simply goes dark. The superheated beam has caused a different kind of failure, a shutdown rather than a detonation. He stands frozen. All systems offline, a statue on the battlefield. The Imperial Knight hesitates, clearly confused by what he has just witnessed. One Chaos Knight attacking another, preventing what would have been a mutual destruction. It does not fit with anything he has been taught about our kind. I use his confusion to act. Oathreaker's Vox units crackle to life, broadcasting on an Imperial frequency I should no longer remember but somehow do. My voice when it emerges barely sounds human, mechanical, distorted, but understandable. I tell him who I am, what I was, how I fell. I tell him about the tournaments, about the warband, about the Knight Commander, and his plans for this Forge world. I give him everything he needs to mount an effective defense to save as many lives as possible. He listens in silence, weapons still trained on me, clearly suspicious that this is some form of trick. I do not blame him. In his position, I would think the same. When I finish, he speaks. His voice is clear, untainted by corruption, the voice of a man who has never doubted his purpose or his allegiance. He asks, why? Why betray my new masters? Why help the Imperium I turned against? I have no answer that would satisfy him. No grand redemption narrative. No sudden return to the Imperial fold. Just a moment of clarity. A chance to do one thing right after so many wrongs. A small defiance in the face of an eternity of servitude. He seems to understand, though I doubt he truly can. He tells me to leave, to get as far from the Forge complex as possible. He cannot spare me, he says, but he can give me a head start before he reports my presence. It is more mercy than I deserve. I begin to turn away to take the chance he offers. Then I feel it. The Knight Commander's presence in my mind. No longer distracted by the main battle, but focused entirely on me. He has been aware of my betrayal from the moment I fired on my partner. He has heard every word I said to the Imperial Knight, and he is coming. I warned the Imperial Knight, tell him to flee to get reinforcements. This is not an enemy he can face alone. He hesitates, honor wearing with pragmatism, then with what might be a salute. He turns and disappears into the industrial maze of the Forge complex. I am alone now. Oathbreaker has gone silent. His resistance replaced by a sullen withdrawal. He knows what is coming as well as I do. The Knight Commander does not tolerate betrayal. My death will be long and agonizing, my consciousness preserved to experience every moment of my dismantling. I could run, but there is nowhere in the galaxy beyond his reach. I could fight, but it would be over in seconds. All I can do is face my end with what little dignity remains to me. The Knight Commander appears through the smog, his massive form dwarfing Oathbreaker as a knight dwarfs a human. His armor bears fresh battle damage, testament to the fierce resistance of the Tyrannus Knights. But he moves without impediment, every system functioning at peak efficiency despite the wounds. He stops a short distance away, regarding me with sensors that penetrate armor, flesh, and soul alike. Through the network, I feel his mind touch mine, sifting through my thoughts, my memories, my motivations. I do not resist. There is no point. What I feel from him is not anger, but curiosity. My betrayal is a novel experience for him, something he has not encountered in millennia of leading his war band. The knights he recruits are thoroughly broken, their will subsumed by that of their daemon engines, their humanity reduced to vestigial remnants. Yet here I am acting against both my engine's desires and his direct command. He speaks not through the Vox, but directly into my mind, his thoughts overwhelming in their clarity and force. He asks what I hope to accomplish. One Imperial Knight warned, one Chaos Knight disabled. It will not change the outcome of the battle. The Forge world will fall. Its resources will serve the long war. I have no answer but the truth. I did not expect to change anything. I acted because for the first time since my fall I could, because in that moment I remembered what it was to be Jorek Vorten. not just the pilot of Oathbreaker. The Knight Commander considers this. Then to my surprise, he withdraws from my mind, severing my connection to the network. The sudden silence is deafening, the absence of the other knight's thoughts leaving a void that feels almost physical. I am alone in my head for the first time in what feels like centuries with only Oathbreaker for company. The Knight Commander turns away, apparently losing interest in me. He has a battle to win, a Forge world to conquer. One defective knight is not worth his continued attention. He will deal with me later. Or perhaps he expects the lack of network connection to be punishment enough. For a knight accustomed to the constant communion with others of his kind, such isolation would indeed be torturous. But for me it is liberation. The voices that have plagued me for so long, both those of my masters and those of my victims, fade to a distant whisper. My thoughts are my own, clear in a way they have not been since before my fall. Oathbreaker stirs, his consciousness pressing against mine. He is confused, disoriented by the separation from the network. He seeks direction, purpose, something to fill the void left by the Knight Commander's withdrawal. In his confusion, his defenses are lower than they have ever been. I seize the opportunity. For the first time since our fusion, I push back against his control, not fighting him for dominance but seeking balance, a true communion, not the one-sided relationship we have had, with him growing ever stronger as I faded away. To my surprise, he does not resist. Perhaps he too is tired of our eternal conflict. Perhaps in some machine way he has come to value what remains of my humanity. Or perhaps he simply sees no alternative, stranded on a hostile Forge world with enemies all around us. Whatever the reason, we reach an accord, neither fully in control but neither fully submissive. A partnership of necessity, at least for now. Together we begin to move, picking a path through the industrial landscape away from both the Imperial defenders and our former Warbie band. We have no plan, no destination in mind. Survival seems unlikely, redemption impossible. But for the first time in longer than I can remember, I feel something like hope. Not for forgiveness or for a return to what once was. Those paths are closed to me forever, but for an ending of my own choosing rather than one dictated by the dark gods or their servants. Alarms still blare across the Forge complex. The sounds of battle still echo from multiple directions. The outcome is uncertain, though I suspect the Knight Commander will achieve his objectives. He has planned too carefully, prepared too thoroughly, to be defeated by a hasty defense no matter how valiant. But that is no longer my concern. My war, both for the Imperium and against it, is over. What remains is a journey with no clear destination, a pilgrimage through a galaxy that has no place for something like me. Neither fully knight nor fully daemon engine, neither loyal nor traitor. Perhaps there is no redemption for one who has fallen as far as I have. Perhaps there is no forgiveness for the atrocities I have committed in the name of gods I never truly believed in. But there might be, if not peace, then at least an ending that carries some small measure of meaning. As Oathbreaker and I make our way through the smoking ruins of the Forge world, I think of all the roads that led me here. The choices made, the oaths broken, the lives destroyed. I cannot undo any of it. I can only go forward one step at a time into whatever future remains for a knight with no house, a noble with no name, a soul with no salvation. The last light of the Forge world's sun breaks through the industrial smog, casting long shadows across the metal landscape. Ahead lies wilderness, the untamed regions of the planet where even the Mechanicus rarely ventures. It is as good a direction as any. Oathbreaker systems are damaged but functional enough to carry us far from both the Imperium and chaos, at least for a time. Tomorrow will bring its own battles, its own choices, its own consequences. But for now, there is only the next step, the next breath, the next moment of an existence that continues despite everything. Not redemption, not yet, but perhaps the beginning of a path that leads there, or perhaps just another detour on the road to damnation. Either way, it is my choice. For the first time since I heard the whispers from the metal, it is my choice. And in that choice, whether it leads to salvation or destruction, I find a freedom I thought lost forever.